What is up, guys? Dzeeff here, and today we are going to talk about why nobody plays magical cylinders. Now, some of you might have seen this title and gone, hey, wait a second, didn't he make a video about why nobody plays a magic cylinder like 4 years ago? And you would be correct. Back in December of 2017, I did talk about magic cylinder and why nobody played it in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! But today we are not really focusing on magic cylinder, we're talking about the new card, magical cylinders. So this is a new support card printed for Magic Cylinder. It just released in the TCG a few weeks ago out of Burst of Destiny, and I think this card is absolutely terrible. Now, when this card was first revealed, I didn't think it was going to be super competitive, but I thought it was like a fun casual card that you could maybe get some wins with. However, after trying to play this card over the past couple of weeks in a variety of decks, I have discovered that this card is way worse than I initially thought. It's even to the point where I think if you play a deck with magical cylinders and magic cylinder, you are less likely to win with magic cylinder than if you only played the cylinder in your deck. So how do we get to a point where a support card is somehow worse for the card it's supposed to be supporting versus just playing the supported card by itself? Well, you get there by printing a support card that takes away the one good thing about the card you are trying to support. We'll talk about that more in a moment here, but first I want to tell you guys about today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Ridge Wallets. You've already heard about them. They have the sleek industrial wallets that come in all sorts of styles and colors. These things are great. They hold up to 12 cards. They have a money clip on the back for carrying cash, and they make a great holiday gift. Right now, if you go to ridge.com/Dzeeff and use promo code Dzeeff at checkout, you will get 15% off of your order through December 7th. Normally the code is worth 10% off, but right now through December 7th, it is worth 15% off. So if you have been on the fence about getting a Ridge wallet for yourself or a friend or family member, now really is the best time to get one. Thank you to Ridge Wallet for sponsoring today's video, and make sure to check the description below for a link to their website. Don't forget to use promo code Dzeeff at checkout for 15% off. I'm sure that most people watching this video are at least a little bit aware of what Magic Cylinder does, but just in case you don't, it is pretty important to understand what this card does before taking a look at magical cylinders. Magic Cylinder is a very old normal trap card that says, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, target the attacking monster, negate the attack, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. Now, while this card hasn't seen competitive play in a very long time, it was quite powerful way back in the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks back then didn't have as many ways to do a lot of damage, so Magic Cylinder was a pretty easy way to close the gap in life points. You could use Magic Cylinder to get a surprising win against an opponent that wasn't ready for it. And no matter what time period we're looking at here, whether it's 20 years ago when the game was brand new or right now, Magic Cylinder has always been about that surprise factor. Obviously the card is less powerful nowadays, we don't really see it at competitions, but if you were to try and get some wins with Magic Cylinder right now, the surprise factor would be the biggest thing going for it. That being said, let's take a look at magical cylinders, and you guys might start to understand the main problem here. Magical cylinders, like I said, was released in Burst of Destiny. It's a brand new normal trap card that's a support card specifically for Magic Cylinder. Set one Magic Cylinder directly from your deck or graveyard. If set from the deck, it can be activated this turn. When you activate Magic Cylinder, you can banish this card from your graveyard, double that damage inflicted to your opponent. You can only use this effect of magical cylinders once per turn. Now, on paper, I don't think this card looks that bad, and that's why when it was initially revealed, I said it was kind of a fun and casual support card for an older card, Magic Cylinder, and I thought that was pretty cool. But in reality, as I have now tried to play this card in a variety of decks, I have found that this card is pretty much useless, and it might even actively prevent you from winning with Magic Cylinder. Basically, Magical Cylinders is a card that tells your opponent, I am setting Magic Cylinder to my board. I think the card itself isn't bad necessarily, but by telegraphing the Magic Cylinder to your opponent, they're never going to attack into it unless they have a way to destroy the Magic Cylinder first or a way to negate negate the magic cylinder first, there's a number of things that they can do to deal with the magic cylinder before they ever declare an attack. And that's the main problem here. With magical cylinders, the surprise factor of the magic cylinder is completely thrown away. Now, some of you might be saying, well, wait a second, Dzeeff, what if I just use the magical cylinders on an attack declaration, and then I could activate the magic cylinder that I just set on that same attack declaration? Wouldn't that still allow the surprise factor to be around? Well, unfortunately, that doesn't really work. As you guys probably already know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very complicated game, and the battle phase has a ton of specific rulings. To help explain why you can't use magical cylinders in response to an attack and then immediately use magic cylinder in response to that same attack, I have invited fellow content creator and ruling expert Distant Coder to explain how this works.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Distant Coder, and today Doug asked me to explain to you guys the interaction between activating magical cylinders to set magic cylinder from deck in response to your opponent's attack declaration. So, in a case where your opponent's monster is declaring an attack and you have a set magical cylinders, any card or effect that you would activate in response to your opponent's attack declaration is being responding directly to that, the attack declaration. So in this case, if you were to activate magical cylinders to set a magic cylinder from deck, even though that magic cylinder can be activated this turn, on resolution of that chain where you activated magical cylinders, you're not allowed to activate the magic cylinder because this subsequent chain is not responding to the attack declaration, it's actually responding to the resolution of magical cylinders. So if your opponent attacks you and you activate magical cylinders in response to that attack declaration, you're not allowed to flip up magic cylinder on resolution because you're no longer responding to the attack declaration.
In other words, you could basically wait until right before your opponent declared an attack, and then you could use the magical cylinders, but chances are they're probably not just going to attack into it unless they don't really care about you using the magic cylinder. And that's kind of what this comes down to, right? If your opponent is at 8,000 life points and you use the magical cylinders to set a magic cylinder, they might still attack into it because they don't really care about losing some life points. However, if it's in the late game and you do this combo of magical cylinders into magic cylinder, they're probably just not going to attack unless they have a negate or a way to get rid of the magic cylinder. And some of you might think, okay, that's great, your opponent is never going to attack you, but in reality, in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And honestly, even in Yu-Gi-Oh! Back like 10 years ago, there are plenty of ways to deal with a set magic cylinder. There are tons of ways to destroy back row or banish back row or negate the magic cylinder when it gets activated. So maybe this card buys you like one turn, but at that point you might as well have just used a threatening roar or a wabaku. So this creates a very weird situation that I found while I was playing with the card, and you'll probably find if you try it out as well, where if you use magical cylinders, your chances of winning with magic cylinder are basically zero. However, if you just play magic cylinder by itself and throw it into a random deck, you might actually get a few wins with the card because it has that surprise factor. And they could have made magical cylinders a bit better and it would have been a fun casual card. For example, maybe on activation you could have targeted an opponent's monster and that monster had to declare an attack that turn. That would have been a pretty cool way to actually force your opponent's monster to attack into your magic cylinder, but as it stands right now, unless you combo this card with like Staunch Defender, your opponent is probably never going to trigger the magic cylinder that you just set, which means unfortunately the double damage effect of magical cylinders in the graveyard will almost never activate. Honestly, magic cylinder has only gotten worse since that 2017 video, so I think that it did need a support card if Konami wanted people to play it, but this card, magical cylinders, just isn't enough, and in fact I think it actively hurts your chances of winning with magic cylinder. This is such an uncommon situation where a support card actually hurts your chances with the card it's trying to support, but here it is, and yeah, it's not that great. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about magical cylinders, but I'll see you later. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye.